Alright guys, it's a new week and we've got plenty more Championship transfer rumours to talk through in today's video. Not long now until transfer deadline day, so clubs will be scrapping around for some last minute deals, I'm sure. What does your club still have to do between now and the end of the window? Let me know down below. But without any further ado, let's jump in. So we've had confirmation of West Brom signing Christian Bielik from Birmingham. We knew this one had been on the cards for quite some time, but has now got over the line. I think it's a nice option for West Brom, and to be honest, a deal that could suit all parties. Didn't look like he'd have a very prominent role in that Birmingham squad this season because of how many fresh faces have come in there, but at West Brom he'll be able to plug a few gaps. Whenever I've seen him in the Championship previously and he's fully fit, I think he's a very good player for this level. West Brom also beat a number of other Championship clubs to the loan signature of Manchester United youngster Toby Collier. He comes in as a nice midfield option. There had been Hull City and Sheffield Wednesday also sniffing around, but West Brom beat them to his signature. And the departure from West Brom that has been confirmed is Bjorn Hegem going out to Italy, signing for Bologna in a deal worth in the region of £10 million. West Brom will also have a sell-on clause as part of that deal as well. I think on the back of the season that he'd had in the Championship last season, I think every West Brom fan knew that there was going to be interest this summer. They've got a decent price for him there though, and from a player's perspective, he now gets to, go to a country like Italy and play in the Serie A. Last week we also saw Wrexham breaking their transfer record to sign Ipswich Town's Nathan Broadhead. He obviously made his debut against West Brom over the weekend, coming on for Josh Windass. Now, a lot's been made of this deal because Wrexham have dropped £10 million on him. Is it a bit of an overspend? With 1 year left on his deal at Ipswich, it does feel like the Tractor Boys have got a decent amount out of this deal, but there's no doubt that Broadhead is absolutely a top player for this level, and I think he will score a lot of goals for Wrexham this season. I think he's an absolute elite finisher, can play in a number of different roles as well, so it'll be interesting to see how Wrexham plan on utilising him. Feels like because of who Wrexham are, they're going to be paying a premium for a lot of these players because clubs know that they have the money to spend. So while it does feel like a bit of an overspend because of his contract situation at Ipswich, they've got a very good player going in there. We've seen Stoke City completing a deal for young French winger Lamine Cisse. He's coming over from the French second division where he scored 9 goals last season. They have been chasing him for a while, so good to get that deal over the line. Looks like a player with real potential. We saw Swansea completing a deal for Malik Yakoué, signing him on loan for the season from Brighton. He made his debut over the weekend for Swansea in their win against Sheffield United. Really highly rated within the Brighton setup. I think he could be a top quality addition for them on loan this season. Following a successful trial with the club, Hull City have signed Brandon Williams, and this could turn out to be a really good signing for the Tigers. Despite the sanctions that they've obviously been working on under this summer, they've come out of it with a really competitive looking squad. Williams, someone who the last time we saw him in the Championship with Ipswich, while he didn't play loads, I actually thought he was quite effective in those games he played. 24 years old, natural ability, definitely more than good enough for this level. He's obviously coming off the back of quite a sizable chunk of time out of the game, so it may take him a bit of time to get up to speed, but on a free transfer, I think that could be a good one for Hull. Nigerian winger David Akintola has also signed for Hull City. He's joined as a free agent. He'd most recently been playing his football in Turkey, where obviously Hull have quite strong connections. 29-year-old winger, he spent the last 3 years playing in Turkey. Goals and assists wise, he's put up some steady numbers in the Turkish top flight over these past few years. Could be a tidy pickup on a free transfer. We've seen highly rated Norwegian youngster Sever Naipan joining Middlesbrough on a season-long loan from Manchester City. He only joined Man City this summer for a fee of around 12.5 million. So clearly someone that's very highly rated. He's an 18-year-old central midfielder. Looking forward to seeing him in the Championship. We've also seen that Mari Hutchinson leaving Ipswich Town. He has signed for Nottingham Forest in a deal worth £37.5 million. We knew there were plenty of Premier League suitors in for Hutchinson. Earlier in the window, it was really Brentford pushing for his signature, but they wouldn't match Ipswich's asking price. In the end, he's ended up signing for Forest. I think that just to have this transfer saga over and done with from an Ipswich perspective, I think is a positive thing, really. We knew that he was always likely to leave, so to get that money in before the window ends, I think is a good thing. But those are some of the done deals which we've gone through in the Championship recently. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. So we'll start out with an absolutely bonkers transfer story that came out the other day, and that's that Birmingham have reportedly inquired about the services of Alexander Mitrovic, who's currently playing his football out in Saudi Arabia. He's been absolutely smashing it and scoring for fun out there. Currently earning just over 400 grand a week, by the way. But as Al Hilal have just signed Darwin Núñez, it's thought that Mitrovic will be moved on this summer. Now, while Birmingham have reportedly inquired about Mitrovic and his services, it's thought that a move to the Premier League would be his preferred destination, and there's definitely going to be Premier League suitors going after him if he is made available this summer. He's still got a year to run on his contract in Saudi, but it's thought that the club could pay him up to just leave on a free transfer. Similar sort of situation we saw with Demarai Gray earlier in the window, with his contract just being ripped up in Saudi that allowed him to join Birmingham on a free. Signing someone like Mitrovic would be absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Blues already have one of the best attacking line-ups in the Championship with all the quality they've got in that position, but Mitrovic is just next level. He's a cheat code at this level, isn't he? Listen, it's a very unrealistic deal, and I don't see this one getting done with all the Premier League interest, but Birmingham have inquired nonetheless. Perhaps a more realistic rumour for Birmingham would be for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, he is available on a free this summer and has been linked with a move to the Championship previously. Earlier this summer, it was Leicester City who were said to be sniffing around. Going back to last summer, I remember there being links to Sheffield United and Oxlade-Chamberlain at some point. So there's definitely been clubs interested in the past, and there's no reason why Birmingham couldn't get this sort of deal over the line. Now, obviously, someone like an Oxlade-Chamberlain hasn't played tons of football in recent seasons, has had quite a few knocks here and there, and for that reason, you wouldn't imagine to get, you know, you're not going to get 40 plus games out of him this season, you wouldn't imagine. But for someone to come in and out of that starting 11, someone with real pedigree and quality, if the contract's right, you can see why Birmingham are looking at that option. He'd be a really exciting player in the Championship, can play in a few different positions as well. Leicester City attacking midfielder Bilal El-Khanous has told the club that he wants to leave and join Crystal Palace. Obviously, Palace looking for a replacement for Eze, who's set to join Spurs. Now, interestingly, El-Khanous did have a release clause in his contract with Leicester, but that expired at the end of last week, so any club looking to sign him now will have to go into negotiations with the Foxes. He played 45 minutes against Preston over the weekend, and looked like one of those players whose head wasn't fully there, sort of playing within himself, and I think is someone who is holding out for a Premier League move. There's been plenty of interest all summer. Looks like Crystal Palace are now going to be the club really pushing to get that deal over the line. Another Leicester player being heavily linked with the move to the Premier League is Abdul Fatwu, and the Foxes have reportedly turned down Sunderland's opening bid for the player, worth in the region of 28 million. Now, Fatwu is undoubtedly one of the most naturally gifted players in the Championship. Another one who, over the weekend against North End, really didn't have a great game. I thought his end product was very wasteful, but when he's fully switched on and on it, such a dynamic player, really nippy and cuts inside well from that right-hand side onto his left foot. You can see why Sunderland are interested in him. Last time in the Premier League, he didn't get to show what it was all about, really. Missed a lot of that campaign through injury, but back fully fit now. Let's see how high Sunderland are willing to go in terms of paying for him, because 28 million won't move the needle for Leicester. Now, we all know it's not been a good start to this season for Sheffield United, but finally some good news for them in the transfer market, because they've agreed a deal to sign Swedish international centre-half Niels Zetterstrom. He's coming over from Malmo in a deal worth in the region of 2.8 million. Now, this one may have been confirmed by the time you guys are watching. As of recording right now, this one looks to be all but completed. He's the sort of player that Sheffield United have been crying out for. He's a 6'4" centre-half, albeit maybe someone that's still fairly raw. He's only 20 years old and hasn't had a great deal of experience in senior football yet. Really made his breakthrough for Malmo last year. They're just crying out for numbers in that position, so to get someone over the line, get them in for the weekend, that can only be a positive. Obviously, another option being looked at by Sheffield United is Coventry's Bobby Thomas. There have been a few conflicting reports over how much the Blades' initial bid was actually worth. I've seen some reports claiming it was 5 million, some that it was 8 million. Now, Frank Lampard has come out and said that Bobby Thomas is a player that he wants to keep at the club, obviously a key player for them last season. But everyone has their price. Let's see how that scenario plays out over these next few days. And another centre-half being looked at by Sheffield United is Ben Mee. You can tell they're short in this position at the moment, can't you? They're really being linked with everyone at the moment. Now, Ben Mee's an interesting one. Is available on a free transfer. Didn't play a great deal of football for Brentford in the Premier League last season, so someone who's probably expected to make that drop down to the Championship, but someone who could be a really good asset at this level. Interestingly, he's also been linked with a move to Sheffield Wednesday as well, with them looking for an experienced centre-half to add to their rank. According to reports, he has been invited to train with Sheffield United ahead of potentially being offered the contract by the club, so let's see how that one plays out. Spanish club Deportivo have shown an interest in Preston striker Milutin Osmajic, who's obviously started this season out on absolute fire. 2 goals and 2 for the Montenegrin forward. I think at this stage of the window, it would have to take a huge bid for Preston to consider selling him at this stage. We're already really quite light in that forward department, obviously with Will Keane, Daniel Jebison out injured at the moment. We need to add more players to that department before we think about selling anyone, obviously. Everyone has their price, but I really think we're talking about record sale territory for us to even contemplate letting him go at this stage. Speaking of North End going after a striker, Icelandic international Andri Gudjonsson is still an option being explored by North End. According to the latest reports, North End have held personal talks with the forward over a potential deal. Looks more likely that a loan deal might be able to be struck this summer, potentially with the option to buy him next summer. There has been interest from elsewhere, but from the player's perspective, it seems like he's open to a move to England. North End are also interested in striking a loan deal for Everton youngster Harrison Armstrong, who spent the second half of last season out on loan with Derby County. Now, Derby are one of the other clubs who would be interested in taking the teenager on loan. Really impressed for Derby in the second half of last season. It does have to be said, if a loan deal is going to be sanctioned by Everton, it's probably going to come a little bit later in the window when they've got a few more bodies through the door. You know, who's on the bench for Everton in the Premier League last night against Leeds. So while he's currently involved in that Everton matchday squad, you know, how likely are they to send him out on loan at this stage? That could be one of those deals that goes down to deadline day. And another loanee being considered by North End is Aston Villa youngster Lewis Dobbin, who spent the first half of last season on loan with West Brom and the second half of last season on loan with Norwich. It was probably Norwich fans who got to see a bit more of him at West Brom. Wasn't really given much of a chance in the first half of the season. But he is 22 years old now, so will want to be playing regular first team football, and it's thought that Villa will be sanctioning another EFL loan deal for him this summer. Southampton have been heavily linked with Coventry playmaker Jack Redoni. I think we spoke about him on last time's transfer rumour roundup video, but we have had a bit of an update on this situation since then, and according to the latest reports, Redoni seems content to stay at Coventry for the time being, and it would take a very big offer for him to leave Cov at this stage of the window. Southampton still with more to do between now and the end of the window, but to get a deal for Redoni over the line looks like it'll be a tricky one now. Watford playmaker Georgi Chakvedadze is a player in demand, with Valencia pushing for his signing right now. Reportedly, personal terms have been agreed between the player and club, but it now remains to be seen whether Watford and Valencia can come to an agreement, with Watford said to value him anywhere from sort of 10 million to 15 million. A few different things have been reported. Chakvedadze has missed the start of this season through an injury, but really showed his class at multiple points of last season, didn't he? Didn't quite get the numbers that his performances probably deserved. He only got 2 goals and 6 assists, but you could see why a club like Valencia would be interested. He's 25 years old, going into the prime years of his career. If the latest reports are to be believed, though, seems like he's very much open to that move. But a potential incoming at Watford could be Denis Popov. He's a Ukrainian international. He spent his entire professional career playing for Dynamo Kiev, but is entering the last year of his contract with the Ukrainian side. By all accounts, a very physical centre-half who looks like he'd be ready-made for Championship football. Let's see what comes of that rumour in the next few days. Japanese winger Koki Saito has been eyed up by plenty of Championship clubs right now. Obviously, he spent last season out on loan with QPR. Impressed during that loan spell, I thought. Thought he looked like quite a tidy player when QPR came to Deepdale at the back end of last season. He did go off injured in that game, though. I think dislocated his shoulder and hasn't actually played since, but when fully fit can be a real asset at this level. He's 24 years old. Of the clubs interested, you've got Birmingham, QPR, but it's currently said to be Derby leading the race to sign him. Been said previously that he's valued at about £5 million, so interested to see how much a club in the Championship would be prepared to spend. Let's see where that one goes in the next few days. Both Swansea and Derby County have been linked with a loan move for Liverpool youngster Cade Gordon. Obviously, Gordon initially came through at the Derby Academy, so he'd be fairly familiar with the club already. Had a few big injuries over the years. He spent last season out on loan in the Championship, had a brief spell with both Norwich and Portsmouth, but struggled to really get going during either of those spells. And it's been said that Wrexham are closing in on a permanent deal for Manchester City defender Callum Doyle, and a deal worth around about £8 million. So another really big deal, this one, for Wrexham. We know they're in need of strengthening that back line, and Doyle would go a long way in doing that. He's had several loan moves out to the Championship in previous years and has impressed in most of them really. At a really good age as well, only 21 years old. There has been quite a bit of interest in the defender all summer, but by all accounts it seems like Wrexham have won that race. But there you guys have it. Those are some of the latest transfer rumours currently going around the Championship. Any others that you've seen, make sure to get them in the comments down below and we'll discuss in next time's video. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.